in its first glow, as tomorrow I shall see the east burning with a new flame. I am the faithful warden at the foot of his laws, so faithful, so vigilant, so near him that he gave me his face for my own. I am a pharaoh's companion, and I am he, the pharaoh. Through the ages, I received many names from the people who came to me in adoration.
Oh, Harmakis, you are my life's safeguard.
Horus, protect me, oh great God, that I might see you every day.
Lord of the desert,
Lord of the heavens,
Sovereign of eternity.
but the name which has remained with me is that given to me by a Greek traveler, the father of history, Herodotus. He called me Sphinx, as if I were from his land, and that name is now mine. Close to the Nile, I watch over the plateau of Gizeh, over all its monuments of modest or fantastic height. They are tombs.
Civilizations are like islands on the ocean of barbarism. Over this one, the Sphinx has gazed and watched for 5,000 years. At the foot of such mountains of stone, everything becomes minute and insignificant. Man is an insect. But yet, it was men who built these massive monuments. And the names of pharaohs whose tombs they are have crossed the ages. Their glory has defeated time.
This is the tomb of Cheops, pharaoh of the 4th dynasty, 4,500 years ago. Here is the great pyramid which he built to defend himself against death.
455 feet high. He achieved the building of the highest monument then known to man. The area it covers is vast enough to hold St. Peter's Cathedral in Rome, the cathedrals of Florence and Milan, Westminster Abbey and St. Paul's. 3 million blocks of stone, some of them weighing 30 tons, were assembled by Cheops' faithful workmen to achieve this fabulous construction. At the center of it, the pharaoh planned his inner chamber, where his mummy was to lie in splendor for eternity.
At the foot of this pyramid, in the rock, a temple was built, and there were kept the barges of Cheops, the barges of night. In these large wooden vessels, the dead pharaoh could continue his voyage in darkness towards eternity. But all that remains of him is a small ivory figure, showing a noble face, the nose aquiline, the jaw determined, and the hieroglyphs representing the name he gave to his pyramid. Cheops dominates the horizon.
The Pyramid of Khephren. It too bears an inscription, Khephren is great, yet Out of respect for his father Cheops, Khephren built his pyramid on a slightly smaller scale. Each side of the base measuring 710 feet, the angle being 52 degrees, it reaches a height of 445 feet. The brilliant covering of polished limestone on the apex originally extended over all four sides, adding to the magnificence of the pyramid.
The face of Khephren has come down to us sculpted in green diorite streaked with white, a rare stone he brought back from an expedition. Here he is, close to us, in the guise of the Sphinx, carved in rock near his tomb. Mykerinus! A third monumental tomb was soon to complete this immense funeral site of Gizeh and make it one of the wonders of the world. Though smaller, the Pyramid of Mykerinus is perhaps the most impressive for being the culminating point of a vast design. Having built it, the workmen climbed down from its granite flanks and, laying down their tools, looked up with wonderment.
Great and powerful was Memphis, the capital city in the plain which joined Upper and Lower Egypt.
Great and powerful were the pharaohs, who on this side of the Nile built for eternity. Its aim accomplished, the fourth dynasty collapsed. But the pyramids still stand. And the inscription on the one that completed the design claims, "Divine is Mykerinus." Here 3 pharaohs reigned, Cheops, Khephren, and Mykerinus. Sarcophagi may be empty, wrappings unwound, yet Cheops, Khephren, and Mykerinus still reign, bearing the double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt. They reign over their court, buried round them, over these small pyramids where their queens lie, over the tombs of their ministers, over the whole hierarchy, sleeping forever. Chamberlains, high priests, buffoons, architects, courtesans, each in his proper place in these funerary chambers, which are called mastabas. For this is a royal palace of the dead, with triumphal perspectives, pavilions, corridors, secret rooms, strong walls. It was a city of another world, approachable by the people only as near as the outer temples, where their devotion led them.
Coming from the Nile, one ascended by a monumental causeway built on the same colossal scale to the high temples, where only the priests lived among the secrets of the mummies. They alone knew for what journey the great barges were being prepared at the foot of the tombs. A journey with the sun. A journey which has lasted 4,500 years. In the maze of this necropolis, let us stand by a tomb like 1,000 others, that of the mother of Cheops, and in it, by the litter marked with golden hieroglyphs, which she had prepared for the eternal journey by her son's side. Neither wind, nor sand, nor centuries could ever entirely silence the voice of the desert.
I bear witness to the will of Cheops, my father, to defy time forever. I saw Antony and Cleopatra pass, Alexander, Caesar, and Napoleon paused at my feet. I saw the ambitious dreams of conquerors whirling like dead leaves. As my motto, I chose an Arab saying: the world fears time, but time fears the pyramids.
Of all ancient monuments, it is the pyramids which have always appealed most vividly to man's imagination. Considered from its top downwards, a pyramid is like the sun's rays bursting through a gap in the clouds. It commemorates the greatest victory of all, victory over death. It is the most perfect mansion, the strongest tent, whose great stone sides are both roof and wall, and so carefully sealed that the dream entrusted to it can live to the end of the world, the dream of immortality. To achieve this, embalmers prepared the body for 2 months, emptying it of all but its heart and kidneys. Hidden in the secrecy of its tomb, attended by a whole crowd of statues, provided with all that was necessary for the journey, there in the sarcophagus lay the mummy, to be called on by the soul. For alone and without the body, the soul could not go into the night. And from the depths of this tomb still rises the scent of herbs, cedar oil, resin, and myrrh. But the pyramid is also the perfect combination of simplicity and magnitude, and the interplay of its angles makes the best harmony of shape and volume. It is architecture's purest achievement, because it relies on the straight line alone. Never has the straight line been drawn with more mastery, skill, and strength. Homage must be paid to Imhotep the learned, who at Saqqara conceived and built the archetypal pyramids. Made up of 6 mastabas, it rose gradually in a broken line of steps. The idea had been born. Calculations had begun. The perfect form was there. Among all the objects laid by a dead man's side in his tomb, a scribe's palette is undoubtedly the most precious. From it were drawn the hieroglyphs representing the figures which made possible the fabulous calculations ordering these mountains of stone. A lotus flower for 1,000, a finger worth tenfold, a tadpole for 100,000, and the scribe's 2 hands joined in prayer for 1,000,000.
Stone by stone, it was built from earth to heaven. It was built in a pharaoh's lifetime by 100,000 workmen, united in a mighty surge of faith. Each stone averaged 2.5 tons in weight. 3 million blocks were hoisted up and laid one upon the other. The finest ones of pure granite were dug up in the quarries of Aswan, whence they came by boat, carried by the flooding of the Nile. The movement of these great waters drove the farmers from their inundated fields to the plateau of Gizeh, where they joined the army of laborers and built. These stones were hauled singly on earth mounds, banked higher and higher as the edifice grew.
In front of such superhuman effort, can one believe in the legend of the whip? It needs mystical fervor to build a pyramid. Faith. Those who worked here deserve not our pity, but our deepest respect and admiration. They lived through one of those rare times when man knows with absolute certainty what he has to do and where to go, because he believes. Here man thought that death was vanquished.
On this vast site, with mankind still in its infancy, walked and worked surveyors, geometers, astronomers to whom no star was unknown, engineers, architects, a whole people, while the rest of the world hunted wild beasts and sheltered in caves.
O noble Nile, I salute you, for your waters flow majestically and fostered this sacred enterprise. One day the desert sands invaded the fields, marshes dried up on the river's bank, and so to save his life, man invented civilization. He had to contend with floods, he designed dams and culverts. He came to love the earth and wanted for his grave. But soon he wished to outlive the earth. And it was farmers, helped once more by their beneficent river, who built these monumental houses of the dead.
And I, Kefren's faithful companion, saw the progress of dynasties and grave priests and the light steps of noble ladies whose diaphanous veils seemed to clothe them, yet not to touch them.
Do you remember the story of the falcon that stole a sandal while the women were bathing?
He snatched it in his beak
and by chance dropped it near a pharaoh who was giving audience in his garden. So slender was the sandal, so small its size, that the pharaoh wished to see the owner. And he married her.
And do you remember how a nobleman at the court of Cheops lured his wife's lover into a deep lake by means of a wax figure, and there had him turned into a crocodile by a magician? Wishing to impress the pharaoh with his magical powers, he willingly revealed what he had done, but carelessly too. For Cheops punished the guilty and the boaster equally. On his orders, the courtier was thrown to the crocodile, which devoured him, and the unfaithful woman was chastised.
Do you remember, too, a young pharaoh, Amenhotep II? Never had there been an athlete so strong, so handsome, so fine. His shoulders were broad, his waist slender, his thighs were of bronze, and he could tame at will the wildest horse. His exploits are engraved on a stone which he laid before you.
Then time in passing left you behind like an old monument. Sand was beginning to choke. Kept by war in Mesopotamia, Amenhotep II was far away from his land. Then one day, while hunting the lion, a prince stopped to rest in your shadow. He fell asleep. You gave him a dream and spoke to him.
Cast your eyes upon me, my son. Listen to me, and the white crown and the red will be yours. The crown of Upper and of Lower Egypt. Yours will be the land in its breadth and length. Do you see how I am forlorn? How my body is neglected? I, the master of the plateau of Gizeh. Deliver me from the sands, and you will be king.
When you woke up, the young man obeyed, delivered you from the sands, was crowned as King Thutmose IV, and had engraved between your forelegs the dream you inspired him with. And then there was great rejoicing.
Coronation ceremonies have begun. Crowds have gathered on the bank of the Nile to watch the ritual tests of strength. Now the royal barge is coming upriver, manned by 200 oarsmen. Responding to the excitement of the crowd, they increase their pace. The pharaoh himself at the tiller maneuvers perfectly and brings the barge smoothly into the landing stage with a last burst of speed. Cheers break out as the pharaoh comes ashore and swiftly makes his way towards the targets of copper set for his display of archery. The crowds follow him to watch.
Here, while he waits for his bows to be brought, his eye is caught by the bucking of a half-tamed horse, and he harnesses it to his chariot. There's a gasp in the crowd, but the pharaoh is holding the reins tightly and curbing the horse to his will. He drives it round the dais, then brings it quietly back to its route. The crowd cheers.
Now the pharaoh has chosen his bow. He has tried more than 50 others before selecting this one. mounts his chariot, and rides off towards the first target. The arrow has gone straight into the center. And again. And now his last arrow hits the target and goes right through.
This is his triumph. Standing up in his chariot, the Pharaoh makes for the dais where his throne awaits him. The court, the priests, the people present him with praise, incense, and offerings. He receives the double crown and, mounting his triumphal chariot, goes to worship in the temples of Harmachis, Cheops, and Khephren. Long live the Pharaoh!
The monarch's reign has ended. The Pharaoh is dead. And now, from the valley, rises the sad lament of his funeral.
Pharaoh is at rest in his coffin made of wood, adorned with gold and precious stones. The ceremony at the lower temple is over, and ascending the causeway, the funeral procession nears the tomb, escorted by princes, high state officials, and priests. The sarcophagus is ready at the heart of the pyramid, in the funerary chamber. And everything has been prepared for the crossing of the lake, which leads to the gates of the other world. The last slab of stone is going to be sealed with such cunning that it will never be known which part of the wall was the door. Gives the final farewell.
Now, King, thou leavest us not dead. Thou departest alive. If thou goest, thou shalt return soon. If thou sleepest, thou shalt awaken. If thou diest, thou shalt walk again. Thou, who hast risen to the undying stars, thou shalt never disappear.
Alas, alas.
Dynasty succeeded dynasty. But among all the monarchs of ancient Egypt, none is more appealing than this young pharaoh, a poet and a mystic, who followed Amenhotep III.
Civilization in its splendor had spread southward step by step, making the valley of the Nile like a triumphal way, bordered by the papyri of learning, furrows of prosperity, terraces of peaceful living and deep meditating tombs. The flame of knowledge had passed from Memphis to Thebes.
Large, pensive eyes, a weak body and girlish softness, such is the strange youth who has been made all-powerful. He leaves Thebes in order to found his own city. He rejects the god Amon and his priests to worship a god of his own choosing, Aton, who is in heaven. And he discards the name of Amenhotep IV to adopt another, Akhenaton. Aton, the unique.
With him, the walls surrounding the royal wives fall. The veils are drawn back, and in centuries to come, people will see and love the graceful figure of Nefertiti. She was by his side in his struggle to establish the new faith. Of this faith, she was like a reflection. Her radiance inspired sculptors. Thus, the image of her beauty came to us in stone.
30 years old, and he died. 3,300 years ago, he wrote and recited this prayer.
Your dawn, O living Aton, takes my breath. You possess my heart. You are the maker and giver of all things, and men live by your grace. Aton, living and life-giving forever and ever.
Their love lasted but a season, the time of a bloom called Nefertiti. Yet there is sadness still in the hearts of men. His successor's name was to have been Tutankhaten. He chose to be known as Tutankhamen, after the old god of tradition. Frail and tender, Tutankhamen died not yet 20, after a reign of 6 years. But 3,000 years have not yet withered his fine, youthful face, nor tarnished the treasures gathered round him in his unfinished tomb of the Valley of the Kings. Today, the world marvels at them.
I, who know the untouchable stars, know too that the Nile which made Egypt cannot unmake Egypt. I saw conquerors reflect before me and bow their heads. I saw Alexander the Great, handsome as a barbarian, thoughtful as a prophet. Here, somewhere in this earth, he rests, awaiting resurrection. I saw Caesar one evening. He feared the sun. Our last queen, Cleopatra, bore him a child, but Caesarion was not a true pharaoh and died before ascending the throne. I saw Napoleon and his burning eyes. Centuries passed over my forehead, yet those great soldiers raised no more than dust. I have known years of despair. An irascible emir of the Middle Ages disliked my smile, thought it pagan and ironical, and so had me disfigured by his artillery. Then children found me ugly. No longer did anyone come and pray at my feet, or listen to me. The keys of old Egypt were lost. I was nearly buried in sand. All our knowledge, our very soul, rolled in thousands of papyri, was sleeping unknown and unintelligible in dark and silent tombs.
Yet the miracle did happen. It was in 1799, near Rosetta. One of Napoleon's officers discovered a stone, a monolith, bearing an edict issued by Ptolemy. The inscription was in Greek characters and hieroglyphs. This was the cornerstone of Egyptology.
True, it still remained to interpret its message. First came an Englishman, then a Frenchman, Champollion, the true father of Egyptian philology. He was so inspired as to decipher the lost tongue of ancient Egypt from a few mysterious hieroglyphs.
Then it was like a resurrection. All at once, from the funerary chambers to the peaks of the pyramids, hieroglyphs were born to a new life. Herons, lotus flowers, fishes, hares, and drapes, the mysterious characters suddenly woke up, fluttered and sang like creatures of the fields as the sun rises. It is as if in answer to a celestial call of trumpets, old Egypt had risen from its grave, young and immortal. Young, immortal, and rich in beauty, like Nefertiti.
Unearthed from their deep silence, the papyri rustled with 100 voices. They had bloomed on the bank of the Nile. They had crossed through time. And then, 5,000 years later, they unfolded the dramatic story of a civilization. From their leaves even rises the voice of the first schoolboys who struggled to write. They were weary and feared the cane.
Master, because you beat me, I have learnt my lesson.
Child, no matter how great and deep our knowledge, offer your constant thanks to God. He will grant you his grace always.
And learned men from the whole world in quest of this civilization stronger than sand and death were enthralled when, in maxims and proverbs, they found a wisdom as ancient as the pyramids, as eternally young. In the depths of the tombs, they heard voices rising again after thousands of years.
The plans of men never wholly succeed, but only what God has ordained.
If you want to keep the friendship of people you visit as master, brother, or friend, beware of women. The room where they sit is full of ill feelings.
Do not answer good by evil. Justice comes before strength.
And historians were deeply moved, because so many centuries later they were reading, yes, love letters.
What can be sweeter than walking in the fields before a man one loves?
I can no longer touch your heart. Why?
If I go walking, you are there with me, everywhere, with every step. My hand is in your hand.
Listening to your voice troubles my mind. My whole life hangs on your lips. For me, seeing you is better than eating or drinking.
Such was my message from the depth of the ages. Girls' voices, the voice of wise men, of children, the voices of ancient Egypt. And if those voices sounded familiar to you, it is because their first echo had already reached you through Greece and Rome, Christianity and Islam. Tomorrow, once more, the rising sun will give me his first caress. Thousands of other suns shall rise again, and man's oldest achievement will remain the highest, the purest.
The Nile be praised, for it is the father of all our harvests, all our knowledge, all our architecture, all our strength.
The Nile be praised. From its banks came one of the 7 wonders of the world.
The Nile be praised, for it bears tomorrow's prosperity and happiness.
The Nile, river of hope, from Aswan to the Delta.
The Nile, which is not a grave,
but a cradle.
In the course of time, only human achievements crumble and fall. But the spirit which conceived these monuments cannot